Hey there, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions. I'm in the car headed to a comic book show here in the Baltimore area today. It is a small show that happens here in the area about once a month, all year long, hosted by Clandestine Comics. I've spotlighted this comic book show before, and this show is actually going to be in Laurel, Maryland. It alternates sites between Laurel, Maryland, and Hunt Valley, Maryland. I like the one in Laurel because it's closer to the house, so I can sleep in a little bit. But this is actually a very special show that they put on once a year, usually around June. It's called CHUD, C-H-U-D. It stands for Comics Here Under $1. And this is a show where you see a lot of dealers will liquidate a lot of their back stock, a lot of their bulk inventory, things that they can't really move for decent prices at shows. I mean, there's still going to be some good things in there, but it's definitely bulk inventory that people are trying to move. You'll have some regular dealers there too, and sometimes you will find some pretty good gems there. Now, as I said, comics here under $1. That's what it means. Every comic here is under $1. But you can also find, sometimes they'll put batches together, and it still will be under $1, but you can find a batch of comics, for example, in a run of 10 or 12 books that you'll pay $10 or $12 for. So you can always find some interesting things. So I thought it would be an interesting experiment today, knowing that I'm not much of a dollar bin diver myself. I just don't like putting that kind of time into it. It's just, I don't like that. That's not the funnest part of the hobby for me. But I thought, you know what? This is going to be an interesting challenge. I don't want to spend a lot of money at this show. I'm looking at possibly going down to Charlotte for Heroes Con, and I want to save the budget. But I thought, as an experiment today, let's do something. We'll pick up a little bit of inspiration from Automatic Comics, and following what Ryan does on his channel. He does these episodes every now and then, starting a comic book resale business for under $300 or for $300. And I said, okay, well, I don't have that kind of budget today. Let's make it really interesting. Let's start a comic book business for $25. And let's see if we can go to this type of show and see what we can find for $1, and see if we can find $25 worth of comics that we can find really good return on investment, and see if we can start a comic book business just with $25 at this type of show. I don't know if this is going to work, and my guess is, knowing that I've been at these shows before, that it's going to be a complete failure. But I thought it'd be fun to try and show you guys my efforts on this. In the end, it's going to end up being a comic book haul if it is a failure. But we'll give it a shot, and we'll go in and see what we can find. Now, I'll try to take some footage from the show, and then we'll come back, and then I'll go over the books I picked up, and we'll talk about the potential value on all these things. And at a later date, I will do a follow-up to the show, and we'll see if I actually did start a comic book resale business off of this $25. So stay tuned. I will be right back. just finished up at the Clandestine Comic Book Show, and I'm going to head home. I'll get home and I'll show off all the books that I've got. But hey, I made a big mistake. My intention today was to do a very limited budget type of show, and let's see if we can start a business with only $25. I thought it was a cool concept. And considering that this show was supposed to be a chud show, comics here under $1. I even had the flyers right there at the door. But as soon as I got to the door, I realized I made a huge mistake. I walked in the door, and the first thing I saw was dealers all over the place with massive wall books. And none of these are $1, trust me. And I'm going, oh, this isn't a dollar show at all. This is just a regular comic book show. And I came so ill prepared for this. Well, I went into it and I'm going, well, I'm going to keep to my budget. I am not going to spend a lot. But it kind of went out the window of what I wanted to do, which was, let's see if we can get 25 books and seeing if we can turn a profit on those 25 books, basically starting from dollar books, right? Well, that went out the window. And knowing that I only brought limited amount of cash on me and I didn't want to spend a lot, well, it made things very limiting. So I spent a lot of time walking around, looking at things. There were dealers there with dollar books, $5 bins, $10 bins. So there were some things I could definitely pick up, but it kind of went out the window what I wanted to do today. So we're just going to revert back to just a comic book haul type video. But there's the rub again, is that I couldn't find anything really jumping out at me. And in situations like this, I will completely revert back to trying to find some of the missing Invaders run that I'm still working on. And you know what? I found one batch from one dealer, and all of them were low grade. The ones that I might have needed were low grade enough that I wasn't going to spend the money on. And I'm going, I might just walk out of here with nothing today. Again, not having the cash on me to buy something big, I just wasn't finding the small stuff that I kind of was gravitating towards. But I ended up finding a couple books, and once I get home, I will show off what I did pick up and why I picked up those books in particular. So let me get home, and I will show off everything I picked up today. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
One eternity later.
All right, everybody, I made it back home. I had a great time at the Clandestine Comic Book Show in Laurel, Maryland. It was not the show I was expecting. As I said at the very beginning of the show, I wanted to go in there, and knowing that it was the chud show, the comics here under $1 show, I was going to dive and we were going to do a test. We want to take $25, buy 25 books, and see if we could find value in those $25 to see if you could start a business on only $25. It was a fun little premise. And I got there, and one of the things I didn't mention before is you get a discount at the door if you give them the special passcode. That if you're on the email list, you get that passcode. And the passcode for this show is, "What's a Chud?" And I didn't think anything about it. That's why I thought it was the Chud show. And when I walked in, as I said, right after the show, on the way home, I thought it was that show. And so I didn't go in there prepared. I wasn't going to just put things on credit cards. At that point, when I realized it was a normal comic book show, I decided, fine, I'm just going to keep to the budget because I still look at possibly going down to Charlotte for Heroes Con, and that's going to be pretty expensive with all the autographs and everything. And I wasn't prepared to be looking for anything in particular that was big. Well, obviously I wasn't prepared budget-wise. So what was I going to do? So after I walked around the show, and I talked with a lot of the dealers, and it was good to see Jimmy from Battlefield Comics there, and there were some of the other people that I know. I realized that it's like, well, I got $25 to work with. What am I going to do? At this point, I looked on the walls, and I'm looking at these $20, $25 keys that I could pick up, and there just wasn't anything jumping out at me. I started diving into some of the boxes, and that's, as I said earlier as well, I started looking for the Invaders books, and I could only find one dealer with Invaders books, and they just weren't the right quality, and there was only a couple in there that I still needed for my list. And at that point, I'm getting ready to basically walk out and not have any comic books. Now,
I'm not saying that the show didn't have good books. If you're watching my channel and you know where I'm from here in the Baltimore area, you also know that this area has some other YouTubers with bigger channels that I've talked about before. Longbuck's Love Affair was there, and he had already put out his video the day of the show. You guys are lucky if you're going to get this a few weeks after the show, but he actually put that video out. I was still at the show by the time he put his show out. That's how quick he was in and out. And he picked up some great books, but he was also working on a much bigger budget than I was. So it was good to see him, but it was like, I'm kind of jealous because he picked up some great X-Men book that was signed by Neil Adams. And again, I wasn't putting that money into the budget. So once I started not finding anything I really wanted, and then I couldn't find the Invaders books, and then I was like, what do I buy? I just wasn't in the mood just to buy something just for the sake of buying. Normally I buy comics for a purpose. Do I want it in my PC? Do I want it for resale? And at that point it had gotten long in the day, and I got tired of digging for anything that I could possibly turn around for a profit if I got it cleaned and pressed and sent it to CGC. I wasn't feeling it. But one of the dealers that I do know is Groundbreaking Comics, and they buy a lot of variants and ratios, and it is a ton of stuff. He even has his own comic, been able to do his own covers. I know in particular the new Space Ghost series from Dynamite, he's actually got one of his covers. I don't know if he did issue 1, but I think issue 2 he sponsored one of the covers. And it was kind of funny because at that point, that's what I was looking for. I wanted to go in and see if he had some of the variant ratios of the new Space Ghost series. In particular, I was looking for issue number 2 because that was the one that I bypassed at my last new comic book day when it came out in the stands. At Third Eye Comics, they had the ratio there, the Virgin foil variant for issue number 2 by Michael Cho, and I was like, well, I didn't get it there. But when I realized I'd like to get something from the show and something that I could use, that's what came to mind, because Michael Cho is going to be down in Charlotte, and if I decide to go, that is a book that I would want to take. Well, it turns out that Groundbreaking Comics did not have issue number 2, the one I wanted by Michael Cho, but they did have this right here. It is issue number 1, the foil Virgin variant, and I picked this up with the regular trade dress because it has that late 60s, early 70s vibe to it. The design is very much like that. But this is the foil Virgin variant. And I remember I didn't pick it up at the time, but it's like still pretty cool. But I didn't realize that Michael Cho did this cover. I know he did the second issue, the one I was looking for, but I didn't know that he did this. So while I've got the regular issue on that, I went ahead and picked this up because I want to take that. Like I said, if I get a chance to go to Charlotte, I'll take that and try to get Michael Cho to sign that, as well as the regular cover that I have for this and the regular cover for issue number 2 as well. But while I'm in the box, I also picked up issue number 1, the Jay Lee variant. Now, this is the Virgin foil variant on this as well. And Jay Lee's going to be also at Heroes Con. So I've got something pretty cool to take down for both of these artists if I get the chance to go to the show. But that was it. Like I said, I did not want to blow a budget. I wasn't going to go get extra cash. I had cash on hand for 25 comic books. As I said, that was the challenge. But this is all I walked away with. And as I said, these books I bought with a purpose, and that is to get them autographed at Heroes Con or down the road at some point, maybe at Heroes Con or at some point, at some other show. We'll find out if I can get to go to Charlotte. That's great. If not, I'll save them for other signing events, hopefully down the road. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this short video. Not a lot of great stuff in here, but I do hope you enjoyed the footage that I shot from that show. It is a really good show. They have this show just about every month. It alternates from Laurel, Maryland, like it was today, and also up in Hunt Valley, Maryland, which is north of Baltimore. So it alternates just about every other month. I think that, and it turns out the next show is actually the beginning of August, and that show is the Chud Show. So we'll revisit this topic, the one I wanted to do today. We'll revisit that at that show, and we'll give that a go and see if that will be a thing, if I can find 25 really good key comics for only $1. Stay tuned. We'll do that show at some point. But guys, leave me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about today's haul and about today's show. And definitely give me a like, slap subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any of the shows that I put out each and every week, Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. All right, guys, I had fun, but it's time to go. You guys have a great day, and I will see you for the next one. Take care, and remember, every comic has a story.